So as I'm piecing together my melody, the biggest and most important aspect of it for me is articulation. And you're not going to be more exposed than you are when you're actually recording. You'll be able to hear back and listen to everything through your door and hear everything that you're doing there, good and bad, which is a really, really good objective place to be when you are serving your final outcome or your final goal of creating some beautiful music for yourself and for others. So what I like to do is actually spend a lot of time working on my articulations once I've actually got my, once I've worked out the melody and I'm happy with it and it's in my head before I go to bed and first thing in my head when I wake up in the morning. But basically, say for instance this one here. So the biggest thing for me using high gain sounds is not to have this, because they'll translate to this. And that ends up being, for me, not optimal. I lose the articulation of the sound and I lose the melody. My voice, my guitar is my voice for my melody. So I'm trying to put forward almost like the guitar is talking or singing. So what I'll do is I'll actually spend time doing this type of thing. So when it translates to the heavier sound, hopefully it'll go. So then continue on from there. So you can hear all of those notes are separated there. That was very, very important for me to do that with all of my melodies, to get them as clean and as articulate as possible. And then from there I would start to add vibrato to them. And this is fraught with danger, going against what you've just worked so hard to do, and that is to get them to be all separate. Because vibrato, your fingers can hit the strings, but the nice part about that, it sounds like you playing it. It sounds like a person playing this, and that's probably the strongest thing that you can actually put forward is your own voice. And we all have their own voice, so it's worth chasing. So you hear a little bit of fizziness and fuzziness there around the chords. I'm okay with that because that sounds guitar-y. That sounds good. I don't want it to sound like I've just programmed it into my door and I've got all of these notes perfectly there. I still need to hear that humanity in there. So, but basically, as just going back on to reiterate, to get to that point, I spent a lot of time doing this sort of work here. So I love that interval. I mean, that is the interval to me. And I should give that a small bend in the melody. So I spent a lot of time doing this sort of thing. And working my vibrato to make sure it's even. Oh, a bit of fizz in there, that's good. Section of the tune I quite often get asked about, and I end up teaching to a lot of my students who are getting into arpeggios and that sort of stuff, is the arpeggio sequence at the end of the tune. It's a huge sort of sweeping triadic style arpeggios to start with, but basically it's about adding drama, and it's the ultimate sort of climax, if you like, of the song just before the coda. So now to do these, I'm just going to need to put my glasses on, so wait for a sec. Okay, so I'll talk you through them. So the arpeggios basically are just outlining the chords that are happening, which are these. So B, add 4, add 11. F sharp 7, add 11. A, add 9. Sort of sneak a little sharp 11 in there. And then we go to the 4 chord, which is the E major 7. So I sort of look at each of those chords as an individual, look at their family. So we've got basically a major chord to a dominant chord to a major chord. I'm seeing that as a 4 chord, and then I'm seeing this E as a 1 chord. But then it's cycling around to the B again, which is starting again as a 1. So anyway, I'll talk further about that as I go through the arpeggios. So a big component of the arpeggio sequence is that they're very, very simple arpeggios, but they span 3 octaves. So the first one is just a straight triad, so a B major triad. This is by far the hardest part of this, and sometimes it's hit and miss as far as whether I hit it or miss it, and that's the slide up to the tonic note, up to the high tonic note. And I slide back down there like that. And that's our B major arpeggio. And then from there I go to my F sharp dominant arpeggio. But I'm playing that actually here from the A sharp, so it's like a first inversion. Add some scale tones in there, and then come down this little interesting arpeggio. Which is a straight dominant arpeggio again, but it's sort of revoiced, and there's almost a hint of a mixed Lydian mode in there as well, so with that sus4. So then I love that sound. It's all through my stuff. And that shape there, using tritones effectively, which exist naturally in your dominant chord, but then the 13 or 6 on top to the flat 7. Now I just find that fingering quite comfortable for me to use. So that little arpeggio. Okay, the 2 together. So that's our first 2 arpeggios. Basically we repeat that sequence when we go to our A chord. So that lovely 3, just straight triad though. It's a 1, 3, 5 all the way through. And then we go to our E major 7. Now that one there, for Eric Johnson fans out there, you will know that type of arpeggio. He does that a lot, made that very, very famous with that type of sound there. So I've taken a little bit of a steal from that one and got. Now basically that's the end of our arpeggio sequence, so it repeats that twice. I'll see if I can put it together for you.